Hey, welcome to Getting to Know Jesus. We are in Volume 6, and your lesson is on page 21 through 30, lesson 68. And the Bible text is on pages 22 and 23. The lesson notes are on pages 24 through 28. And Jesus goes to Decapolis and feeds 4,000. We're going to talk tonight about what really matters in life. Okay, here's our little timeline. You can see we've moved down a little further. We are definitely into the third year of Jesus' ministry. So 12 months from now, from where we are in our Bible, Jesus is going to be going to the cross for you. So right now we're just kind of getting closer and observing more of the events that happened prior to that. What really matters in life? All of us are going through life trying to figure out why we are here and what we should do in order to have the best life possible. How much time do you spend just thinking, boy, if I just do this, my life would be great? Yeah, and there might be times when you still do. Some of us have kind of gotten a little different perspective on it. But now, many of us seek to get more for ourselves. Have you ever played that game? Hey, what's in it for me? You know, I'm entitled. We're dealing with an entitlement mentality today that's causing some difficulties. But I played that game 40 years ago. And so, it's nothing new. Sometimes we have to realize the only thing we're entitled to is go to hell for our sins. And thank God that He doesn't do that to us. Some of us realize that the more we do for others, the more we will be rewarded for our labors. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Jesus gives a vital example of what should be our highest priorities. Life isn't about what I can get for myself, but what I can do for others. We're in Matthew chapter 15, verses 29 through the first part of verse 39, and Mark chapter 7:31 through chapter 8, actually it's verse 9. We'll get 10 next week. Jesus travels through Decapolis, an area of 10 cities that occupied it. Decapolis, Deca for 10, Capolis for metropolitans or cities. So there were these 10 cities that made up this area. It's called the Decapolis. We'll show it to you here on the map in just a little bit. It is also about this time that He feeds the 4,000. We had the feeding of the 5,000 not that long ago. Maybe a month or 2 or 3 earlier in Jesus' life. There, 2-3 months later, He's feeding the 4,000. He shows us by example that life is caring about other people. So let's look at our first part. Jesus heals and touches people. We're in Matthew chapter 15, verse 29, and Mark 7:31. Jesus left there the vicinity of Tyre and Sidon. That's where we left Him last week. Down to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of Decapolis. Then He went up on a mountainside and sat down. Great crowds came to Him, and bringing the lame and the blind and the crippled and the mute and many others, and they laid them at His feet, and He healed them. Now Mark goes on to tell us that there are some people brought to Him, a man who was deaf and could hardly talk. Mark takes one particular instance instead of all of them, like Matthew does. And they begged Him to place His hand on the man. Now, after He took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put His fingers into the man's ears. Then He spit and touched the man's tongue. Ooh, how gross. And He looked up into heaven with a deep sigh and said to him, Ephphatha, which means, be opened. At this, the man's ears were opened, his tongue was loosed, and he began to speak plainly, and my laser pointer has died. But we're not done yet. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more He did so, the more they kept talking about it. The people were overwhelmed with amazement. He has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak, and the crippled are made well, the lame are walking, and the blind are seeing, and they praised the God of Israel. No matter where He goes, when Jesus sees people hurting, He does something about it. Now, some of us like to do that. Sometimes people have done that and it's not been a good thing because people were faking their hurt so they could hurt other people. But Jesus had the ability to discern, and he knew how to help people. He may be trying to get away from Galilee because some people are now getting more aggressive and trying to kill him. Or maybe he just simply needs some time away. Remember, Jesus is God, but Jesus is human. He's human. He gets tired after a while. Now, Sylvia loves to entertain people. She loves to have people over for dinner or a party, the Super Bowl party. It was too much work for her, but she loved having every one of you over that came over. We delighted in it. But there have been times when Sylvia says, I've had enough. I want some time to myself. I don't want anybody over. So Jesus is, I'm sure, that human side of him kicked in and said, yeah, maybe he just needed to get away from Galilee for a while. Maybe it's because he's just, the people that are threatening his life are getting a little too threatening. He just doesn't want to give them any. Sometimes when a situation gets a little too hot, if you can break away from the situation, it gives it time to settle down. Road rage situation, this person's following you. If you can find a way to just change your route from where they're going, then the situation diffuses. If you don't, you get in a confrontation and you don't want to go there. But no matter where Jesus goes, even foreigners have heard about him. And they want what he has to offer. Now, Jesus' ministry primarily has been just to the Jewish people. But travelers, tradesmen, Romans had roads, and they encouraged trade and travel. And all these foreigners that were trading with the Jews, and the Jews that were trading with foreigners, they go back and forth, and some of them say, hey, there's this guy down in Galilee that's doing great and awesome things. His name is Jesus. And when Jesus goes up to Tyre-and-Sidon, people know about him. We talked about the woman that wanted her child healed. And Jesus called her a dog. He insulted her. And yet, she responded to his insult with, I believe, even though I'm a dog, and the Jews are, I believe you can heal my daughter. And it was her faith. Do what? They considered all Gentile dogs. That's right. So you and I are dogs too. Roof. How's life? Roof. Okay. Now, in one example elaborated on by Mark, Jesus touches a man's eyes, ears, spits, and touches his tongue so that he can hear and speak more clearly. Who said? To us, that's gross. I don't want your spit on my body. Now, husbands and wives may get a little passionate. They're kissing and they share germs. And that's one thing. But sharing germs with a total stranger, or a guy sharing germs with a guy, no, it doesn't compute. Not the way we want to think about it. But though Jesus instructed, now Jesus tells this guy, don't go tell anybody. Okay, I've opened your ears so you can hear. I've opened your mouth so you can speak clearly. Now he can speak in words that you and I can articulate and understand. Wow, what a miracle! Most people don't do miracles like that. I don't know if anybody does them at all. But this is quite something. And Jesus told the guy, don't go tell anybody. And what's the guy do? Now, what did I do last week? When I had my fancy little iPad, I had to show you and tell you how God blessed us with an iPad. I had to go tell people. I'm excited. What did you do when you first accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Oh, I hope nobody finds out. No, you were excited. Hey, you got to come to church with me. We got this great preacher, and he told us about how we can be forgiven of our sins, and we can have eternal life, and you were so excited you couldn't contain yourself. I know some of my friends in junior high said, Glenn, cool it.
Wash your hands.
I'm not interested.
Okay, wash your hands.
Well, that's their problem. I think one of them that said that does go to church today, so I don't know about the rest of them. Well, we have a point. We have pointed out before in the Getting to Know Jesus series that pain and suffering is a part of this life. It happens. What is it? If you want to see God laugh, tell him your plans. Or life is what? What's the other one? There's another one. Yeah, life is what happens to you when you make another plan. That's right. I planned this way, but my life went this way. And I can tell you a lot of things. We can spend a whole discussion time just talking about, well, I was going to do this, but here I am over here doing something else. So, and sometimes those changes of plans were good, positive, uplifting, and wow, that's right, that was the greatest thing that ever happened. Sometimes they were painful. Losing a child, painful. Sometimes losing a parent could be painful. Or losing a job that you just like, man, this is what I've always wanted to do. And you like working for the company. We've all had disappointments of one kind or another. Every one of us is going through something that is making our lives less than what we want it to be. I had plans. Getting to know Jesus was going to be touching millions of people by now. We're working on it. But we're a long ways from getting there. But we work at it, and then we watch what God does with it, and say, I believe God's plan's really smarter than mine. It better be. If it is dependent on me, we're in big trouble. Some people are hurting physically. You've got an ache or a pain, an ailment. Some of you could tell the rain was coming today. Anybody here that could do that? Your joints told you that we're going to have rain coming, a change in the weather? Oh, okay, good. Some people get that way. Some of us are hurting in a relationship situation. We're struggling with a relationship. It didn't go the way I wanted to, or something like that. Some of us are fighting a mental or an emotional battle for our self-worth. I don't feel good about myself. And if I don't feel good about myself, I'm going to do things that are going to reflect that I don't feel good about myself. And other people are going to treat me hard, and they're going to make me feel worse. And I'm not going to feel good about myself because those people are treating me worse. And I did it to myself. I did something stupid, so they treat me that way, and I don't feel good about myself. We're all struggling with one thing or another. It is good for us to seek relief from that pain in our own lives within reason. There are some things that would help relieve the pain and some things that only make it worse. But at least we try. But it is even better. Instead of just trying to seek relief from your pain, it's better to get involved helping other people with the relief from their pain and suffering. Just about any expert you want to talk to says the best cure for depression is to go out to some place, a hospital, a nursing home, some place where people are suffering and help them. Help those other people. It'll get you out of that depression in a hurry. And you'll go home feeling good because you know that you helped somebody a little bit. So, always better to help others when you can. The best cure for the plum disease. Does anybody know what plum disease is?
You're going to tell us.
Yeah. You got that right. Poor little old me. Have you ever, let's put it this way, have you never played the plum game? That's what I saw. No hands going up. Everybody's played that game at one time or another. Why is this happening to me? It's not fair. And all that sort of thing. The best cure for the plum disease is to get involved helping somebody else who has a need in their life. Now sometimes the best thing you can give another person is a touch. Maybe just a touch on the elbow or a touch on the shoulder. That's generally a safe place to touch people. Now, I did run into a situation one time where I think I touched somebody on the shoulder and don't touch me. Damn. Some people will not feel comfortable, but most people will not be violated or offended if you just say, I care about you. I'm praying for you. Just a little gentle touch like that. Now some people just say, I need a big old hug. And you can minister to them in an appropriately way, that way. But sometimes they just need you to listen. I was going through something back in California many years ago, and it was just one of those days. And I went by the church, and I went to the pastor, who married Sylvia and me. I said, I need you to listen. I don't need you to solve my problem. I think if I could talk through it, I just need you to listen. And he was, fortunately, had the freedom in his schedule, flexibility that he could do that. And I talked through it a little bit, kind of got it out of my system, got things sorted out a little bit, and I was able to go on and do whatever I needed to go on and do. You girls call that venting. Sometimes us guys realize when our wife is venting, and sometimes we think she's giving us a problem, and we've got to solve it, and we don't allow her to just vent. That's another discussion for another time. But sometimes all the person needs is just a listening ear. I just need you to listen to me for a minute. And maybe that's the best way to preface it. I need to vent. I need to just talk, say some things without you necessarily just doing anything more than saying, I'm listening, I'm listening, I'm listening. Okay, well, all they need is someone who cares enough to be willing to listen as they talk to their pain, maybe give them a touch or a prayer of encouragement. Most people will not mind prayer. Even people that aren't really religious will oftentimes not turn away a prayer, especially if they're hurting. They're in the hospital and the doctor told them you've got cancer, or your husband had a heart attack, or you've got this, or we're going to have to do this. Yeah, I'm ready for prayer. Send that prayer person over here right now. I need some help. I need God. We always need God when we have a problem. Do we love God enough to need Him when we don't have any problems? That's a little sidebar. I thought I'd stick that in there. I won't charge you any extra for it. Sometimes you can fix something that they have no knowledge or finances or emotional strength to fix by themselves. You know how to change a car. Back years ago when I was at the Ozark Bible College, I got a Saturday class, and I just had a little class on how to take care of your car aimed at girls. And I showed them what a spark plug was and what an air cleaner was, how to check an air cleaner and how to put it on. Now, back in the days when you had to worry about that a lot more than today, I showed them how to change a flat tire and showed them how to check their oil and a few little things like that that basically most anybody that drives a car needs to know. And it was just something that I knew how to do that I can help them with. One church in Los Angeles moved into an abandoned hospital, bought the property, got the rights to occupy it, and they went into the neighborhood around one of the worst parts of Los Angeles, full of drugs, full of prostitution, full of all sorts of crime and bad things, and they started cleaning up people's yards, painting their houses, mowing their yards, fixing their fences, just doing it because we love you. You know what happened? The prostitutes either converted to Christ or went somewhere else. The drug addicts either became Christians or they went somewhere else. And one of the worst areas of LA is now one of the safer areas of LA because this church went out and just loved on the people around them. And I know there's a church here in Lakeland that's working on that. We've done some stuff like that here at Northside. You guys have come and helped so-and-so, and George has helped me move more stuff more times than he wants to remember. He doesn't know he has a bad back, so he'll have to lift anything that he can get his hands on. Huh? That's what happens when you own a trailer. Everybody wants you when they need a trailer, but nobody wants to go out and buy a truck or a trailer so they'll have their own.
Oh, I didn't know he had that.
Oh, now you know. George has a trailer. And but you know, sometimes you can do something like that, babysitting. It was a blessing to me when my boys were this little. One was this size, and one of the families in the church offered to babysit one night for us, so my wife and I could go out and have a date. You know, young parents with little children can't always afford a babysitter, and a lot of that can't afford to take the children with them, and so it's a little hard for them to get out and just have some time together. That was a real nice gesture that somebody did. Sometimes you can actually become the hero by doing something dynamic. And maybe just mowing that person's yard or painting their house or fixing that spare tire will be just the right thing that will turn that person around and say, I want what you got. You did this because you're a Christian. I want to know the Jesus that gets people to do things like that. You will reach out. Will you reach out and touch someone for Jesus? You might even make their life better. Well, here is a picture of the ruins of Bet Shan. Now this is somewhere in the region of the Decapolis. And as I said, we'll get a map up here in a little bit and we'll show you where that region is. Well, Jesus feeds the people. He heals and touches people. Now he's going to feed the people. In Matthew chapter 15, verses 32 through 36, and Mark chapter 8, verses 1 through 7. During those days, another large crowd gathered, And Jesus called his disciples to him. They had nothing to eat. He called his disciples and said, I have compassion for these people. They've already been with me 3 days. I get hungry a long time before that. And they have nothing to eat. Or maybe they had food the first couple of days and they run out of food. I don't know, but they're hungry. If I send them away home hungry, they will collapse on the way because some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered, we could not get enough bread. This is a remote place here. We could not get enough bread to feed in this remote place, to feed such a crowd. Well, Jesus takes inventory. How many of those do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied, and a few small fish. He told the crowd to sit down on the ground. He took the 7 loaves and the fish, and when he had given thanks, I think that's something that we ought to do a little more often. He broke them. He gave them to the disciples to sit before the people, and they did so. They had a few small fish as well. He gave thanks for them also, and told the disciples to distribute them to the people. So this sounds somewhat familiar. I mean, over on the east side of the Sea of Galilee, now we're over the region of Decapolis, Jesus finds himself spending a major portion of the day teaching and healing the people. Now, similar to when he was near Bethsaida on the north shore of the Galilee, and I'll point that out when we get our map here a little bit, where he is now roughly compared to where he was when he fed the 5,000. Here he said Jesus has attracted several thousand people, and as the day starts to set, the people get hungry. Do you get hungry at the end of the day? I wake up hungry. And I may have had so sometimes if I've had a really big breakfast or maybe a late breakfast, I may not feel hungry at noon, but most times it's kind of like whether there's something in my biological clock that says noontime, you need to eat something. And I have a tendency to like to do that. And then come dinner time, I'm not too big on fasting. Maybe some of you figured that out already. We like to eat. Well, this time, Jesus has more food to start with, 7 loaves instead of 5, and a few small fish implies more than 2. But still, maybe enough for the 12 apostles to have a little bit, but not 4,000 men, plus any women and children that were with them this time. However, the results are very similar. No matter where you are or what you do, your job and your life affects other people. You may be using your trailer to help other people haul goods. You may be singing in a quartet to just bless other people with the beauty of music. You may be a hairdresser. You may be cooking fries at McDonald's. But your life is changing other people's lives. How many people like to eat at McDonald's? I see one hand going out in the direction.
People what?
Like to eat at McDonald's. Okay, you got 2 hands out of this. And if you don't raise your hand, what are you doing working there? Okay. So, you can meet the needs of others, or you can just try to see what you can do to get their money, get more money, do less work. This is one of the problems I have with unions. There may have been a time when employers abused employees, and there may still be occasionally some situations where that goes on. But unions have become inherently selfish, and they're more worried about greed and power than they are about the workers that they're supposed to be representing. Oh, we get them more money, they pay us more union dues. We get more greed. And if they don't get us more money, we tell them they have to go on strike and they have to join our union. That's power. And unions have done a lot to destroy a lot of industry in the United States. A lot of it's gone overseas, but that's another topic. But the bottom line to that is that the more selfish you are, the less effective you are going to be. Question is, what do you think Jesus would do if he were doing your job? What would you think Jesus would do if he were living in your house, living with your neighbors, shopping in the stores where you shop, and doing the things you do? When is the last time you helped feed people who had little or no food? Sylvia and I used to go every actually every other one weekend a month, one Saturday night a month in California, and with a ministry that fed the homeless. And we'd help prepare the food and cook the food, and then we'd help serve the food. Sometimes I take my guitar and sing, sometimes I preach. So, but we haven't gotten into that out here yet, but give it time, it may come. Okay, here's our map. And thanks to Google Earth for this one, I have to give credit to them. Here's the Sea of Galilee. Now Jesus, so this is Galilee over in here. Jesus went up here to Tyre and up to Sidon. That was covered in the last lesson. Way out. That's as far up there to Sidon as it is down to Bethlehem or south of Jerusalem. Now, this is a long ways out of his normal trek of travel. Now when he comes back from Sidon, he comes back down to Galilee, but he comes over here on the east side. This is the Decapolis. There are 10 cities. I think it goes down a little further south than the bottom of this map. But basically all of this area over in here was the Decapolis. Now somewhere over there, may not have been anywhere near the Sea of Galilee. But now the feeding of the 5,000 was about right there, right where these two roads jump. Or borders, whatever those are. Jesus was somewhere over in this area when he fed the 4,000. So it gives you a little perspective there. Well, the people are filled. Here's the results. The people are filled. Matthew chapter 17, verses 37 through 39a, and Mark 8, verses 8 and 9. They all ate and were satisfied. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. And those who ate, the number of those who ate was 4,000, besides women and children. Now Matthew makes it real clear that the men were 4,000, and there were some women and there were some children present with them. And after that, Jesus had sent the crowd away. We're going to pick up on that one next week. Well, we've already seen that Jesus never settles for halfway. Have you ever noticed that? Jesus doesn't do just enough to get the job done. He does what is needed to do his best. Do you go to work with an attitude of, I'm going to do my best, or I'm going to do just enough to earn my paycheck? When I was going to Ozark Bible College, I had a job at Ozark Engineering. That was a steel mill in Joplin, Missouri. It has since disbanded, closed down, and who knows what or why. But I noticed a lot of the guys, they would work, but then they'd stand around and talk to each other for a bit. They'd chat, and they'd talk, and then they'd go back to work. And they'd stand around, they'd talk a bit, and then they'd go back to work. My attitude was, I'm there to cut steel. I was a saw operator. That was what I did. They took the steel that I cut, they notched it, punched holes in it, put this part on it, put that part on it. They built the erector set. Then it was sent out to the paint shop awning where it was painted, loaded onto a truck, taken out to the job site, and it became a bridge or it became a building or whatever it was for. I was a saw operator. My attitude was to cut steel. Now I could put a big beam on there and it'd take 30 to 40 minutes just to cut through one cut. So I still had time to stand around and talk, but that saw was working. If that saw wasn't working, I either cut up everything that they had given me to cut, or I was in the back getting some more steel to bring over the rollers to put through the saw to do some more cutting. But my attitude was, I'm here to work, not to goof off. And they didn't give me too hard of a time. Well, actually the morning saw operator didn't like it because he'd come to work that morning and there'd be no steel for him to cut until the shop made up some more cutting orders and got them out to him. But that's his problem. I was there to work, and that's what I tried to do. Now, so Jesus never settled for halfway. People have been, when Jesus healed people, we've talked about that. They're healed completely, they're healed immediately, they're healed permanently. Now they get fed until what?
They're full.
Yeah. Not just enough to tie them over to the next meal, but have you had enough to eat yet? I noticed that we had some food to put away tonight, so if you didn't get enough to eat, it was your fault. Evidently, you all look like you were full. I don't see anybody going to sleep yet. But they got as much to eat as they wanted. and they were satisfied with it. These people are not given just a small lunch or a snack, but a full meal. They have no such food to eat that they have so much food to eat that they have lots of leftovers. I don't know, 7 baskets full. How many baskets did they have when they fed the 5,000? Anybody remember? 12 baskets of food that time. Smaller crowd, smaller amount of leftovers. I don't know how God figured that. Maybe when I get to heaven, He'll explain it all to me, and then I'll understand even more. But that's okay. They still had leftovers. They had more food than they needed. They don't have as much leftovers as the feeding of the 5,000, but the point is that they had a greater amount of food than the people could eat. How many basketfuls of leftovers do we need to realize that Jesus has done an awesome thing? Really awesome. What are you doing to help other people prosper in their lives? What are you doing to bless other people? The guy that I met in California, his partner did my income taxes back when I lived back there. But I got to know him. He was a Christian. He just loved God. He loved people. And he would get up every morning. I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to tell you again because some of you haven't heard it before. When he woke up every morning, he said, God, who can I bless today? And he would look for a way to bless somebody. Somebody needed some money for something, or somebody needed some help with something, he'd find a way to go and help them. If he couldn't find anything else, he might just leave a rather extra, double, generous tip when he went to eat lunch. Instead of leaving the waitress a couple of dollars, give her a $20 tip. Lunch only cost him $3 or $4, $5. But he would be that way. It was just his way of blessing somebody else. Might be something for us to think about. When is the... are you only giving people enough to get by, or are you giving more than is asked so they can prosper and maybe even have some leftovers of your help and assistance? How are you using your talents to bless other people? Well, our conclusion is this. Jesus' entire life is focused on serving other people. And our greatest blessings come from when we serve others. Next week, Jesus is going to deal with people who won't believe it except the evidence about it. Can you believe that? Here's the powerful Son of God. He's so great at what he's doing. And yet there are just some people that will not accept the evidence. Well, we'll talk about that. Are you among them? What? Especially when they've seen him face to face. I only see what's in the book. Okay, we're going to break into our discussion groups on page 29 in your book.
You can follow us and stay in touch with what is happening with the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry on Plaxo, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and watch our video clips on YouTube and GodTube. Getting to Know Jesus is sponsored by New Hope Gospel Ministries. If you'd like to follow along with us and start your Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study group, or just pray for us or support our ministry, you can go to www.gettingtoknowjesus.org and find all the information that we have available for you. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, there's a button where you can make a safe and secure donation to the Getting to Know Jesus Bible Study Ministry. Or you can go to the order page and order your Getting to Know Jesus books for your Bible study group. Thank you for stopping by, and keep us in your prayers and let us know how we can pray for you.